Hello there, you're watching the Press Preview, a first look at what is on the front pages, joined tonight by the politics editor, or the political editor, even at The Sun, Harry Cole, and Rachel Cunliffe, associate political editor at the New Statesman. Welcome to both of you.
Evening. With
us from now until just before midnight. So to the front pages then, let's kick off with The Guardian. Stand with me is the top line for that paper, as Yulia Navalnaya vows to continue her husband's fight. The Metro, which leads with the news, the bodies of the 3 children that were found in a house in Bristol have been named with the top line, beautiful souls. The Financial Times reports on how pension funds are piling into UK corporate bonds, encouraging some French and German companies to issue sterling debt for the first time. Labour is set to pledge triple lock on UK state pension. That's the lead story for The Eye. High-risk aircrafts are landing in Britain without security checks in a major new immigration scandal, according to the Daily Mail. The Telegraph reports that the US has moved to block an Israeli offensive as Biden tries to stop the invasion of Rafah, calling for a UN vote on a temporary ceasefire. The Express quotes that the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, is vowing to renew Britain's sense of pride after tough times and has promised that his plans for the economy will boost Britain. While the Star says how the real-life Holy Grail was saved from MI6 by a Spanish cleaner who hid it in her sofa. Well, scan that QR code and you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you listen to our guests. So let's head straight to Harry Cole and Rachel Cunliffe. Welcome to both of you. Not sure the Star's in your list, but we'll soon see.
I was pushing for it.
You want to pushing for it, but not winning. Anyway,
I have a lot of questions about the Star. Let's just put it that way.
We'll get there. 11:30.
OK, fine. Now then, let's go to Kemi Badenoch and the former Post Office boss. What is going on?
What's going on is that Kemi Badenoch seems to have started a fight with, I mean, she would obviously say he started it with the recently dismissed chair of the Post Office. So he did this interview over the weekend where he claimed that Badenoch told him he was being dismissed because somebody had to take the rap for the Horizon scandal and the continued failure of the Post Office to really get going on a compensation scheme for all the hundreds of thousands of sub-postmasters who were wrongly accused during the scandal. And she hit out over the weekend with a series of tweets basically calling him, no, not basically, actually calling him a liar and saying this was full of lies. He then hit back and said he had evidence to back up his claims. And she made a statement in the House of Commons today where she rode back slightly on the claim that he was lying. I think it was misrepresentation.
She did eventually repeat it.
But still went up.
So he's making it up.
Basically, making it up, claiming that, she says, a blatant attempt to seek revenge following dismissal. And what's really interesting about this, I think, is that there will be a paper trail on this.
Yes.
So there will be records of these conversations. He claims he got a note from officials that said, stall on the compensation scheme. Does that note exist?
So the Tories could limp into the next general election.
There was something
there will be evidence on that.
There is something that doesn't quite smell right about that story in the Sunday Times. The original story, it was very light on evidence, very light on detail. It was
well,
very
it was
much
his quotes.
He said, she said.
Yeah.
But there was an element of dust the recently fired guy who found out from Sky News that he was about to be fired. A bit of, clearly not a happy bunny. Clearly feels greatly wrong that he's being made to take the rap for something that, as we've been discussing on countless occasions, has happened over decades and various administrations of the Post Office within government. Is he clearly very annoyed? Yes. Is Kemi Badenoch, having seen, tipped to be the next potential, maybe Prime Minister, but certainly Tory leader, is she, having seen what happened to Boris Johnson, stupid or arrogant enough to have gone so studs in today in the House of Commons, where the penalty for being shown to have lied in the House of Commons is a hanging offence? You are done. Her political career would be over. She went, she bought a machine gun to a knife fight. She has gone for this guy. And you have to think, if she's not telling the truth, then she is incredibly brazen or mad.
Well, specifically on allegations that she said in the House of Commons that he was being investigated for bullying, which he has said in a very long statement this evening is the first he's ever heard of it. So, I mean, at what point is somebody fibbing here.
Well, I imagine, yeah, again, as Rachel said, there's going to be a paper trail. If he is investigated for bullying, there will be evidence of that, as the minutes of the meetings. He says, you know, he didn't quite say, I have evidence that I was told X by so-and-so. He said, I have taken a note myself.
Yes.
I wrote it in my notes.
And then emailed it to
himself and others.
Yeah.
Fine. That doesn't necessarily. That's still kind of he said, she said. On the actual, you know, was this guy clearly, you know, fired for being a little bit useless and seen as a block in the eyes of the minister? Yes. Is he very angry? Yes. Will we ever get to the truth? TBC, what do you reckon?
I just think, regardless of the truth of it, I can't quite get the rationale for Kemi Badenoch getting involved in this, because what this has ensured is Sunday, so Sunday, Monday, Tuesday's papers probably is going to run into the week. Headlines linking Kemi Badenoch with the Post Office Horizon scandal, which is a scandal that was nothing to do with her, that started a decade and a half.
It was. I mean, the music did stop on her watch. She is the business secretary. Who,
only
the Mr.
at the
Bates
very
programme
end
has sort of blown this up into a.
But she wasn't mentioned in the ITV programme. She wasn't Post Office Minister. She was overseeing the department, handling the compensation, yes, but she wasn't a key villain in the story until now, and she has associated herself with that.
Unless you flip it round and think, maybe she wants to have this fight, maybe she wanted to fire the guy from the post office, maybe she wanted to be seen to be doing something, and this is the blowback. She doesn't have a great reputation as being a lover of the press. She did work briefly as a journalist before, but she is no fan of journalists. She thinks we are all muckraking little so-and-sos who like to, you know, make things up and fester in them. Lots of times she's gone very public with this. She doesn't take... if she thinks she's in the right and a story is wrong, she will go studs out on Twitter and just do it. We were discussing this earlier, of maybe did she go a little bit too far yesterday? TBC, we'll see how it plays out, but... I just can't get my head around the idea she'd be stupid enough to lie. She's not a stupid woman. She is a smart woman, and I just don't think anyone would lie like that to the House of Commons so brazenly.
OK, she's off to the muckrakers, hopefully not with a machine gun. Anyway, we'll see. Right, to the Daily Express then, an interview, it seems, with Rishi Sunak.
Another one.
I know it's been tough.
Rachel.
He says that he's a Taylor Swift fan and loves Mexico. No, we've heard all that before. No, it's other stuff that we've heard before, which is Rishi Sunak wants to renew Britain's sense of pride in tough times. But, you know, the plan is working, and you can see the plan working in the fact that the UK economy entered a recession, albeit a technical recession, last week, and the Conservatives lost two seismic by-elections. So I'm not quite sure how Rishi Sunak thinks an interview in the Express saying that what we really need to do is regain our sense of pride in tough times is going to help him. I think...
20 points behind the polls.
What have you got to lose? That
normally
says. Is that
exactly.
What it is?
Normally, quite, you know, a Prime Minister interview, you know, is quite a, you know, they happen quite rarely. You know, they will choose their moments, they will intervene, they'll do a sit-down when they have something new to say. Can't say there's anything new in here, but you're 20 points behind the polls. What have you got to lose? You know, TV debates are going to be the big topic coming up soon. You know, it's now. You know, it's normally the Prime Minister.
So who's going to say yes to that?
Rishi Sunak's going to. You're not going to get him. You're not going to be able to get him off of television or out of the papers in the next.
See, I'm not sure about this, and the reason I'm not sure about it is because he thinks he's good, but when he feels challenged and threatened, you've seen it with journalists.
Pesky.
You've also seen it with interviews with members of the public. He either comes across as very petulant or sometimes very patronising, kind of telling voters that it's really not as bad for you as you think it is, and you're not struggling as much as you think you are, and I'm working very hard. And that's not a particularly sympathetic message. And I know some Conservative MPs who were really worried about how Rishi Sunak is going to fare on a general election campaign
Especially
trail.
a presidential one.
It's going to be a presidential
yeah.
style one. He's never had to be in a general election campaign.
He's never won a national election.
In the forefront of politics. He's not used to it. What do you do if he has a tantrum? What do you do if he starts condescending, patronising voters? You can't campaign purely through Daily Express front pages.
Daily Express front pages, interviews with GB News, you know, all sorts of things.
It didn't go well, though, the GB News
it depends.
thing you did.
It depends. It depends if you're trying to reach, you know, the Westminster bubble, no offence meant, I include myself in that, or whether you're trying to reach viewers of GB News who, you know, and actually 100 viewers of GB News that were polled on it all undecided voters. 50% of them came out and said, you know what, actually I will vote for that guy. So I think we'll see more and more and more of this. Not necessarily the content, it's the fact that, you know, who are we seeing more of at the moment? We're seeing Rishi Sunak everywhere, and you've got Keir Starmer holding that Ming vase, desperately trying not to drop it while running across a minefield in giant clown shoes. So
I tell you what he should do, what Sunak should do, because he is a Taylor Swift fan, and apparently Taylor Swift does swing elections, or election ones, American ones anyway. You know, if he did Taylor Swift karaoke and there was like a clip...
Should we picture it?
Like a clip that got leaked.
Should we try and get it? Will you come on? If I can get him to sing karaoke on The Sun, interview The Sun, will you come along?
You heard it
You
here
will have
first.
to do the lyrics, because... And obviously Taylor's arriving in Britain. She's in July.
You should be a sketch writer. You've got muckrakers and machine guns and minefields and Ming vases. It's the whole lot, isn't it? Anyway, to The Sun now. Fuel duty.
That's more like
Tell us more, yeah.
Yes, our great campaign
It's here,
continues.
here we go.
Yes, there is. So...
exclusive by Harry Cole.
Indeed.
Just let you know.
Since 2010, every single Tory chancellor since George Osborne has frozen fuel duty. Rishi Sunak was actually the first chancellor to cut it, which by 5 pence. We have worked out, and we reckon that's probably about £100 billion over 14 years in lost revenue to the Treasury, which we're taking as a win. Our campaign carries on with gusto in the run-up to the budget. We've found out that £13 billion of headroom for the Chancellor, not a massive amount compared to the autumn statement. They're getting a bit gloomy about this idea of a big pre-election giveaway, but we think that the idea of trying to put up fuel duty in an election year would be even more suicidal. But 81,000 people polled by Fairfuel UK recently, and the only people that want to put up fuel duty are cyclists.
Well, can I
And 69% of electric vehicle drivers.
Can I just make a point? Is that it is not criticising your story at all, but it is primarily a poll of drivers and
Road users.
Primarily of drivers, and 2/3 of them said they wanted it to come down. And I'm pretty sure if you asked, you know, most people who use buses and trains, would you like more money spent on your morning commute so your train or your bus turned up faster? They would probably say yes. And generally, people are quite keen on tax cuts for the taxes they pay.
Absolutely.
And tax rises for taxes that they perceive other people as paying, and public spending increases on the services that they use, and public spending cuts on things that they personally don't think are important. So I'm not sure it's that much of a surprise that this tax fuel duty freeze was popular.
You sound like a Treasury official trying to squeeze every last penny out of poor hard-working
I'm just saying
drivers.
it depends. I'm a driver, and I notice it at the petrol pump too.
And when you're a cyclist, you hate drivers, and when you're driving, then you hate the cyclists. But it's the way.
And everyone hates pedestrians.
Isn't it? Yeah, exactly. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme. We'll look at Yulia Navalnaya as well, but also we'll tell you why the Culture Secretary has labelled trigger warnings on Shakespeare plays as nonsense. That and plenty more after this. Watching the press preview with me once again, Harry Cole and Rachel Cunliffe. Welcome back to both of you. Front page of The Guardian, then, Rachel, stand with me. Yulia Navalnaya vows to continue her husband's fight. You know, are we looking at the next opposition leader, effectively, after the death of Alexei Navalny? Well,
she has historically been very private, hasn't given many interviews, and really she played the supporting role while her husband took on Vladimir Putin. But in light of his death, in this interview, calling on anyone who believes in a free Russia to keep fighting and to share, I think she said, share not just their pain and grief, but also their rage. That does sound like the words of a politician. A very dangerous game to be in, though, as we've learnt this week. Yes, I mean, even Lord Cameron's been speaking about this landing on the Falkland Islands, about there needs to be consequences for this, the really, truly depressing news of Alexei Navalny's death. Yeah, and I just thought that her appearance at the Munich Security Conference, literally a couple of hours after hearing the news, not necessarily knowing that it was verified by that point, and that absolutely stone-cold address she did to the world's leaders, literally gathered in the room, was a fairly remarkable moment for someone who's just lost her husband, and her life is clearly in danger herself, and then the allegations that the suggestions that Novichok was used, as it was in the Salisbury poisonings, as it was to try and kill Navalny the first time on that plane. Remarkable woman, and one that's clearly not going to go down without a serious fight. Yeah. Let's move on to the Eye, domestic matters.
election matters, one might say. Labour set to pledge triple lock on UK state pension. Where are the tanks being parked? Which bit of grass do you think?
This is very much sort of Keir Starmer going into the Tory lawn. Pension triple lock, we talk about it like it has always been a feature of UK politics. It's actually brought in by the coalition government. And essentially, it's a bribe, right? It's a bribe that the Conservative Party pays to older voters who are more likely to vote in general and more likely to vote Conservative, although we're seeing in the polls not certain to vote Conservative. And now you've basically got Labour saying, we won't take it away. I imagine if the Conservatives were to drop it, which they won't, Labour would then say that they were dropping it too. But basically, it's Labour trying to not give the Conservatives any advantage with any voter demographic, even with voters who are traditionally Conservative voters.
And voters that actually do go and vote, unlike vast other swathes of the electorate. Labour have a deliberate strategy of trying to make themselves as small as possible. Rachel Reeves is a big advocate of this, is don't give government an inch. Once that election campaign gears up, once the sort of Tory machine goes into full, but Labour are so haunted by previous elections from '92 to 2015, where they made lots of, they made too much noise, they made too many pledges, they just allowed the Tories just to pick apart their numbers. So now they're just trying to do everything as possible, as make themselves as small as possible. But the flip side of that is, well, if there's no difference, if you ditch the 28 billion, which was really the only difference in spending commitments...
Which younger voters may have liked.
Which younger voters may have liked, but they don't necessarily always vote.
Yeah.
What is the point? Are you just trying to win by default? Are you happy to go into Downing Street with the mandate of, I'm not the other guys? What is the retail offer to voters?
Where's the vision?
Where's the vision? What's the wallet getter? What's really going to get people to vote? And full kudos to the Eye for doing this. This is something that it's a sort of almost a story that was there to be written, because it's so obvious they were going to do it and follow them that I'm annoyed I didn't think...
I was going to say you should do it.
But you did write the next story.
Oh, did write the next story. Let's go to the next story then. OK, this is The Sun again, isn't it? Yeah.
OK, it's a hard-hitting edition of The Sun. Culture Secretary, fresh from the BAFTAs, has been doing a little lap of interviews this morning, and we had some fun on what you might describe as culture war issues, and asked her a few things about what she thought about key things. And one of them is this suggestion that plays like Shakespeare's, by Macbeth, should have a warning to theatre-goers that it may contain disturbing scenes. And I think Lucy Fraser makes the kind of fair point of, if you're going to see Macbeth, surely you kind of know what you're going to get. And she had a good old pop about not rewriting Roald Dahl books and James Bond and all these controversies that have happened over the last few months and years about sort of rewriting history. And then she went on the, obviously, attack on Labour will tear down statues and burn books and all sorts of things.
So when we're trying to find, reasons that you're fighting election on, culture wars and...
But that's the thing, is there's so little gap between the two parties.
But that is the Conservative strategy. The Conservative strategy is to get everyone fired up about the culture wars, even though 50% of voters don't really know what the word woke means and can't really define it. And even those who can, they care about economic issues in the NHS much more than they care about the culture wars.
OK, run out of time.
Good old common sense, the other side of it.
Yeah, exactly. Harry and Rachel, thank you both very much indeed. Thank you.